Hello everyone. I'm going to start with the digestive system. The digestive system is a open type of system. Means it is completely exposed to the external environment. Okay, it starts from the mouth and it ends with in the anal ring. The total length of digestive tube, that is called as alimentary canal, is around 8 meters. Okay, so in these 8 meters the food keeps traveling and many digestive process is taking place, then absorption process is taking place, and the remaining food is the unabsorbed food is coming out as a fecal matter. Okay, so you have to understand many objectives that we will see. We will describe the structure and functions of different sections of digestive system, like small intestine, large intestine, stomach, all these things. Okay, then layers of the wall. As I told you, digestive system is just a tubular structure. So this tube has different layers: outer serosa, middle muscular, and inner mucous layer. So in that there are subdivisions. We will see what are the layers and different types of cells that is present in the innermost layer to absorb the food. Okay, next discuss the process of digestion. Process of ingestion, then propulsion, digestion, absorption, and elimination. This we will discuss. Then the supportive glands that is connected to the digestive tract, the livers and the gallbladder. Gallbladder is not a gland; it's like a pouch that stores the bile juice. We will discuss that. Then the nervous system connection to the digestive tract, and also the defecation process, defecation reflex. Okay, this also we will see. So this is the overall view of digestive tract. Okay, I told you the digestive tract is also called as alimentary canal. Okay, which starts from mouth and ends in the anal ring. It starts from mouth and ends in the anal ring. Okay, so it starts with the mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine. It includes duodenum, jejunum, and ileum, and large intestine, which includes cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum, and the anus. Okay, in these tubular structures, these are all the extra structures that is present, that is connected to the digestive tract. For example, teeth, which has to break the food and allow for easy swallowing. Then tongue, which is used to detect the taste of the food and propel the food, mix the food with saliva, okay, and lubricate the food. Then salivary glands that is present in the mouth will secrete the saliva. This saliva secretion is very interesting, like it is having some enzymes. I will discuss one by one, don't worry. Then gallbladder, that's a temporary storage that is present in the alimentary canal. That stores the bile juice that is coming from the liver. So liver, the largest exocrine gland, that is present in the right hypochondrium, and the pancreas, that is also present in the retroperitoneal space. Okay, this is the overall view of the alimentary canal. It starts at the mouth. You have the salivary glands attached to this mouth. Then you have the esophagus. Then it continues as a stomach. Then the duodenum. The liver tube is connected. That is a bile duct. I will teach separately hepatobiliary tree. Then it continues as a small intestine, which is around 5 meters in length. And here in the cecum, the ileum joins, which is called as ileocecal junction or ileocecal wall. Then it starts the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, and the rectum and anus. This is large intestine, which is 1.5 centimeter. Okay, So this is what we are going to study today. Okay, so coming to this transfer nutrients, water and electrolytes from the food we eat into the body's internal environment. Okay, so there are many things you have to understand about the ingestion, propulsion, digestion, absorption, elimination. So we eat food for this purpose. Okay, what food we eat? We eat carbohydrate, we eat vitamins, we eat fat, we eat proteins. Okay, the proteins are absorbed as amino acid, fats are absorbed as fatty acid, the carbohydrates are absorbed as glucose. Okay, apart from that, water, electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and also medicines, these are absorbed in the GI tract. Okay, so we have to first, we don't eat the food as a carbohydrate, we eat the food as apple. Apple consists of huge amount of carbohydrates. Okay, see, he is swallowing the apple here, he is swallowing the apple here. Okay, so this apple is having more carbohydrate, we are biting and we are swallowing. Okay, then propulsion has to take place, that is, the food that we swallow, we call it as bolus. Okay, how it takes the name as bolus? This apple mixed with the saliva, and that mixed food with the saliva, we call it as bolus. Okay, we call that as bolus. Then we have absorption process. So before absorption, the apple has to be prepared into carbohydrate, or if you eat a meat, the meat has to be prepared into amino acid. So this is what we call it as digestive process. There are lots of chain reactions. Okay, for example, if you eat fat, okay, a butter or something like that, it has fat, isn't it? It doesn't get absorbed directly into the blood, it has to be coated with salt, bile salt, we call that as emulsification. Then after this fat has to be converted into fatty acid by certain enzymes that is secreted in the stomach. Okay, and also the duodenum. Finally, when the small intestine see the fatty acid, it absorbs. The fatty acid gets absorbed. Okay, likewise, proteins are converted into amino acids and it get absorbed. Okay, so after absorbing all the required food material, the waste material has to be eliminated. Okay, that is the fecal matter, which is eliminated by the large intestine. I will show you when we pass step by step. So these are the process that is taking place in the GI tract, gastrointestinal tract. Okay, no, one thing before moving this slide, I would like to tell one thing. The fats, proteins, vitamins are all absorbed in the small intestine. Okay, whereas in any part of the GI tract, water, glucose, electrolytes and medicines, the drugs, are absorbed in any part of GI tract. Okay, so you have to understand. I'll give you one example. Enteric coated tablets, you can Google it, ENTRIC, enteric coated tablet. That means what? This tablet will melt only in the intestine and gets absorbed there. So it has to be enteric coated, it has to be absorbed only in the intestine. Okay, so that's why we call it as enteric coated tablet. So for example, if a patient has chest pain, they keep salbutamol sublingual isosorbide drug under the tongue. So the drug gets absorbed under the tongue and it goes and acts. So likewise, if the patient, small babies are having fever, they will give rectal suppository medicine. They insert the suppository drug into the rectum and the rectum gets absorbed. Okay, so that's called a suppository. So that means what? The medicines can be absorbed from mouth to anus in any part. Okay, likewise glucose and water, it can be absorbed in any part of the GI tract. I will show you that mechanism. Just a minute. In support to that slide, students, I would like to show you one interesting fact about your GI tract. Okay, see, your GI tract is 8 meters in length. In that 8 meters, in 24 hours, what is happening? On an average, you drink around 1200 ml of water, isn't it? Then your salivary gland in the mouth, it secretes around 1500 ml of saliva in 24 hours. Okay, then your stomach, it secretes around 2000 ml of gastric juice in 24 hours. Okay, then the liver, it secretes around 500 ml of bile juice in 24 hours. And in the pancreas gland, it secretes around 1500 ml of pancreatic juice, that is pancreatic amylase and pancreatic lipase juice in 24 hours. Then your intestine secretes 1500 ml of intestinal juice. We call it a succus entericus. Okay, so total 8200 ml, that is 8200 ml, 8.2 liters of fluid is coming into the digestive tract. Imagine, the overall blood volume is only 5000 ml. Okay, so the digestive system, it secretes, 8.2 liters of fluid passes into your digestive tract in 24 hours. Okay, so in that 8200, this 6700 ml plus 1400 ml, that is 8100 ml is getting reabsorbed back. Okay, reabsorbed back, and only 100 ml of fluid is going back into the fecal matter. So this is a cycle that is taking place every 24 hours. You will wonder, why when there is loose motion, more amount of fluid is going out? From where it is coming? It is coming because it is not absorbed. Okay, so whatever fluid comes through the GI tract, it has to be absorbed back. When the absorption stops due to bacterial infection, more amount of fluid goes out and the patient gets dehydrated. This is the simple mechanism you have to understand. Okay, continue with this. So you understand how much amount of fluid, 8500 ml of fluid is coming to the GI tract, and 8100 ml, around 8100 ml of fluid is being absorbed back, and only 100 ml of fluid is going out. Okay, around 1.5 liters of saliva is secreted in 24 hours. Okay, so this is what this GI tract shows. Okay, it shows you are ingesting the food is chewed. Okay, mechanical breakdown. One thing, you have to chew the food and make it like a paste. Okay, once you chew the food and mix with saliva and swallow it, that is called bolus, that is coming. See, this is the bolus that is coming to the stomach. We call this as bolus. Okay, so what happens, study says that only 25% of breakdown of food material is taking place in the mouth. You chew, you crush, and you break the food only for 25%. Remaining 75% of breaking down of food into simpler substance is taking place in your stomach. Remaining 75% of breaking down of the food into simpler substance is taking place in your stomach. So that means your stomach is more powerful than your mouth. Yes or no? You have to understand this. Okay. Now, apart from that, the act of swallowing is called as deglutition, that is taking place in the oropharynx, and a wave like contraction, that is, see, you can see the peristaltic waves. You can see the peristaltic waves. Okay, a wave like contraction is taking place in the stomach. Okay, so peristaltic waves, you can see the animation. If you want to see the real peristaltic waves, I can show you. Wait. Yes, what you see here is the actual peristaltic waves. It's a real peristaltic waves. You can see the wave-like movement that is taking place in the intestine. This is the propulsion of. This is propelling the food, making the food to move in your GI tract, gastrointestinal tract. Okay, you can see this waves is taking place by the autonomic nervous system control. Okay. Suppose if you are stressed, these waves will be very fast. If you are stressed, these waves will be very fast. If you are in a relaxed mood, these waves will be normal speed. Okay. So what happens? There is a myenteric and mesinus plexus. We call it as parasympathetic and sympathetic nerves. Okay. These nerves are innervating the intestine. These nerves are innervating the intestine, and automatically once the food is present in the esophagus, GI tract, the propulsion, this kind of rhythmic wave like contraction is taking place, and this keeps moving the food. Okay, so the peristaltic waves has to start from from the esophagus and pass all the way through the intestine. Okay, from the stomach, if it is taking place in the reverse direction, you vomit. If it is taking place, if this kind of wave is running in a opposite direction, you vomit. Okay, so this is the natural look of the peristaltic waves that is taking place in the intestine. Okay, that is taking place in the intestine. This is how the peristaltic waves is propelling the food. So in the intestine, the intestinal fluid is going in, and then the required food materials, the fat, proteins, vitamins, all are being absorbed, and the remaining food material that is converted into fecal matter, and it comes out through the anal ring. The process of this thing is called as the defecation. Okay, the process of eliminating the fecal matter is called as the defecation. Okay, so before this, I would like to show you one small note. Okay, that you have to understand. So anyway, so this is a peristaltic. I will show you, no problem. This is a peristaltic waves that is propelling the food from the in the GI tract. Okay, once it is swallowed, the food is the rhythmic wave like contraction keeps moving the food. Okay, this is called as peristaltic contraction, peristaltic waves. Okay, so these waves can also take place by the segmental contraction also, that is taking place by the segmental contraction also. Before going into the layers of the stomach, I would like to show you few points, basic points that you should understand. Okay, students, the GI system starts with GI tract starts, it has 3 guts, that is foregut, midgut and hindgut. Foregut, midgut and the hindgut. Okay, it has foregut, midgut and the hindgut. Handwriting, so it's better I type and show you. Okay, see, the foregut starts from mouth and ends in second part of of duodenum. Okay, likewise the midgut starts in third part of duodenum and ends in medial two-third of transverse colon. Okay, then the hindgut starts in lateral 1/3 of transverse colon and ends in anus. Okay, so now the foregut starts in the mouth and ends in second part of duodenum. Midgut starts in the third part of duodenum and ends in the medial 2/3 of transverse colon. That is, it includes duodenum, jejunum, ileum, cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon. Okay, then lateral hindgut starts in the lateral 1/3 of transverse colon and it includes descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum and the anus. Okay, so the foregut is supplied by celiac artery. The midgut is supplied by superior mesenteric artery and the hindgut supplied by the inferior mesenteric artery. Okay, then the venous drainage for the complete GI tract is portal vein. It is by the portal vein. Even by all the portal vein, it goes to the liver, isn't it? So it is by the portal vein, and the inferior and the hindgut is also having the portal venous drainage. Okay, now the main function of foregut is digestion. Okay, the main function of midgut is absorption. The main function of hindgut is elimination. It eliminates the fecal matter. The main function is absorption. It absorbs proteins, fats, carbohydrates, vitamins, everything. It is absorbed in the midgut. And foregut role is to break the food into simpler substance and prepare the food for absorption. Okay, whatever food we mix with saliva and swallow, we call it as bolus. The food after staying in the stomach for 30 minutes to 2 hours, it comes to the duodenum and that is called as chyme, chyme, chyme. Okay, so these are the basic things you need to understand about the digestive tract. Okay, now let's go to the other function, layers of the stomach. So layers of the GI tract. Okay, the innermost layer is called as a mucus layer. Okay, this mucus layer is very interesting. The epithelium, that is the innermost layer, it has epithelium. Most of the GI tract is by columnar epithelial cells, but in the esophagus alone it is having stratified squamous, that is multiple layer of epithelial cells, because food is rubbing the esophagus more, okay, due to repetitive rubbing. So more to prevent the damage, the more amount of cells are present. Okay, then it secretes mucus, digestive enzymes and hormones. The mucous membrane, okay, absorbs in the food material, protects against the infections, and sublayers are mucous epithelium, then submucous layer which has lamina propria and the muscularis mucosa. Okay, the submucous layer contains blood vessels, lymph vessels, then follicles, which is innervated by the Mesenus plexus. As I told you, it is a sympathetic nervous system. Then it also has elastic fibers. Okay, then so these are the layers of the intestine. You can see in the outer area, you can see this is the serosa or the adventitia layer. Then you have the muscular layer, then you have the submucous layer, and you have the mucous layer. So between the mucous layer there is submucous muscularis. Okay, so one thing you have to understand here is we will discuss only about the mucous membrane. You see, these are all the epithelial cells. These are all the epithelial cells, and there are secreting glands that is present here. You see, these are all the secretory glands. They secretes, and the secretions like mucus, pepsin, renin, all different types of that I will teach that as a separate for your understanding. It comes into this lumen. It comes into this lumen. Okay. Now, if you see, this is the muscularis mucosa. This is called as a muscularis mucosa, also called as a submucous layer. It is also called as a submucous layer. It's also called submucous layer. Then here you have this submucous layer, and then you have the muscular layer. Okay, this muscular layer has two layers in the full maximum part of intestine. That is the outer longitudinal and inner circular layer. Outer longitudinal and inner circular layer. Whereas in the stomach alone, it has three layers. Even the oblique layer is there. Okay, that's why the stomach, when it is holding more amount of food, it can stretch too much, and again it can recoil. Okay, so that's why three layers of muscular layer is present in the stomach, whereas the remaining part of the GI tract, it is having only two layers. Then the outermost layer, it has serosa, or also called as adventitia. Okay, I will tell you the difference between adventitia and serosa. Okay, I will tell you the difference between the adventitia and the serosa. Okay, now let's see about the muscularis externa. It functions and the function is to do peristalsis and segmental contraction. Okay, it contains the myenteric plexus, also called as Auerbach's plexus, which is a parasympathetic plexus, and lie between two layers of the muscle. And it has a inner circular layer which acts as a sphincter. What is a sphincter? You see, the circular ring-like structure, we call it as a sphincter. The circular ring-like structure is called it as a sphincter, that acts like a valve to control the flow from one organ to another. For example, in the end of the stomach, you have the pyloric sphincter, whereas in the tip of the stomach you have the cardiac sphincter. Okay, so what happens once you swallow the food? Maybe I can show you in this. Once you swallow the food, okay, once you swallow the food, once you swallow the food, what happens here? Okay, if you look here carefully, this part is called as a, you can see the circular muscle here, this is called as a sphincter. Okay, so this sphincter remains closed until the food gets ready. Okay, likewise in the cardiac sphincter, this circular muscle is called as cardiac sphincter. This remains closed always. The one food comes here, it opens and allow the food to come into the stomach, and it keeps quiet. Okay, so this function of this sphincter is to act as a one-way direction mechanism. They don't allow the food to go in the reverse manner. If the sphincter becomes weak, what happens is, as stomach acid will come and burn the esophagus. So that's why you get the irritation in the chest. Okay, in the epigastric region. In peptic ulcer disease, you get, we call it a reflex esophagitis, because this epithelium is different, the stomach epithelium is different. The stomach epithelium can withstand any type of acid. Okay, the acidic concentration is more, whereas esophageal epithelium cannot withstand the acid. That's why the acid keeps burning the esophagus, and there is more epithelialization, and that leads to Barrett's esophagus. I will tell that. Okay, just understand the basic mechanism. Okay, so now you have the inner circular layer that's acting as a sphincter. Okay, next, serosa layer. Then what is serosa layer? What is adventitia layer? Okay, for that you have to understand the peritoneum. What is peritoneum? A peritoneum is a sac, a bag-like structure that is present in the abdomen. A peritoneum is a bag-like structure that is present in the abdomen. If you see in this picture, okay, you can see here the yellow color spot. Okay, you know, this bag is present in the abdominal cavity. Okay, inside this bag the intestines, liver, everything is present. Okay, so this membrane is called as a peritoneal membrane, which is creating a sac like structure. Sac means a bag like structure. Okay, inside this bag all the intestine is placed. Okay, so this fat is called as a omentum. We have greater omentum and lesser omentum. I can show you here. Okay, this is the omentum. Okay, this is a fat bed. It is also having adipose tissue where the fats are stored in the omentum. Okay, so this fat bed is acting like a policeman. It is spread all over the intestine to withstand any shock. Okay, so this peritoneal, this omentum, it is storing the fat. Okay, actually this omentum is not peritoneum. This whole intestine structures is placed inside the bag like structure that's called as a peritoneal sac. That is called as a peritoneal sac. So if you look at this picture, you will have a better understanding. You see, this is a peritoneal sac. This sac is going in between the bladder and the uterus. It's called a vesicouterine pouch. Okay, so between the rectum and the uterus, rectovesical pouch. Okay, so what happens in this bag? Few part escapes. The rectum is escaping from the bag. The sigmoid colon is escaping from the bag. Then the duodenum is escaping from the bag. The pancreas gland is escaping from the bag. So these are the retroperitoneal structure. Even the blood vessels are retro means posterior. Okay, so what happens? This is a vertebral body. This is a sac, peritoneum. The posterior part area of the peritoneum is called as retroperitoneum. In this place you have the kidney, you have the inferior vena cava, you have the aorta, you have the pancreas, you have the duodenum. Understand? So this fold of this bag divides into greater sac and the lesser sac. Okay, so understand, you have to just imagine, you have to be in your dreamland to understand this peritoneal sac. Understood? You have to be in your dreamland to understand this peritoneal sac. Okay, so whatever intestine that is present inside the peritoneum, it is the outermost layer is called as the serosa, whereas in the thoracic cavity you have the esophagus. That outermost layer is called as the adventitia. That outer layer is called as the adventitia. So let's read this. Outermost layer of the intestine is the serosa. It forms alveolar. It's made up of alveolar connective tissue. The parietal peritoneum and the visceral peritoneum is present. Okay, so the parietal peritoneum is lining the abdominal wall, whereas the visceral peritoneum is lining the intestine. It's covering the intestine. Okay, for example, if you see this video, the intestine is held by the mesentery. So I will show you two videos. You will understand about the mesentery and the visceral peritoneum. Okay, you will understand about the visceral peritoneum. Now you see this video. I am showing you the opened peritoneal sac. Okay, then you can see the difference between the visceral peritoneum and the mesentery. Okay,
so you can see these membranes are the mesentery. Okay, this is the mesentery. Okay, you can see the mesentery here. You can see the mesentery here, and this is the jejunum, and below you can look at the ileum. Okay, this is the ileum. Okay, and this is the ileum. Okay, so what's the difference between these two is we can see more fat accumulated in the mesentery of the jejunum, whereas less fat in the mesentery of the jejunum, whereas more fat in the mesentery of the ileum. Okay, so this prevents the reduces the blood flow to the intestine. Understand? So the ischemic bowel disease is common in the ileum. Okay, and this ileum joins to the, so this is the appendix. You can see this is the appendix. Okay, and this is the ileocecal valve. This is the cecum, and this is the ileocecal valve. Okay, so this is the narrowest junction in the GI tract. This is the very narrowest junction in the GI tract. Okay, so likewise now you can see the size of the appendix. All of you keep your finger width and measure. Just size of the little finger present in the, see, this is the right iliac fossa. Okay, this point is called as the Macrones point. This point is called as the Macrones point. Okay, and here you can see this mesentery that is attached between the L4 and the S1 vertebral body. Okay, from that membrane, the end of the membrane includes the intestines. Okay, so here you have the large intestine, and this large intestine goes in as a sigmoid colon here. Okay, and here you can see this is the fundus of the uterus. This is the fundus of the uterus, and these are the broad ligament. These are the broad ligament. Okay, so if you see, you can see there this abdominal wall. You can see count 8 layers here. Okay, the skin. Then you have the external oblique, transverse oblique, and internal oblique muscle. Then you have the peritoneal membrane. Okay, in between these muscles you have the sacs. You have various sacs. Okay, so I cannot go more deeper in this because I cannot remove the things from the body. Okay.
Okay, so now students, what you have seen is the mesentery that is holding the intestine. Mesentery that is holding the intestine. Through this mesentery only the blood vessel passes. Okay, so if you want to see the blood vessels, let me try to show you. Students, what you see here is the large intestine. We call it we are doing a surgery, me and my head of the department, we are doing a surgery. Okay, so if you see here, this is the large intestine. Actually the intestine got twisted, and we call this called as volvulus. Okay, when the intestine got twisted, we call that condition as volvulus. You can see the blood vessels on the intestine, large intestine, as well as you can see the blood vessels in the mesentery. So in the okay, now what we are doing is the intestine got twisted and there is more air accumulation. So we have to make a hole, and we have to remove the air first. Then we have to remove this part of intestine, because once it is overstretched, it is not going to recoil back. Okay, so that's why we have to remove this part of intestine and unite the remaining part. Okay, and we have to unite the remaining part. Okay, so what happens where the patient came with very tight abdomen and he couldn't breathe, and there was a lot of breathing difficulty. So when we opened the abdomen, the intestine came out like a parachute, the intestine, it came out like a parachute. So I was shocked. This was my first surgery. I was assisting this surgery. Okay, so that time, in the next part, remaining part, I can show you this blood vessels that is passing through the mesentery. Okay, so you see how far the intestine can expand. okay, but when it expands still further, it will blast, the intestine will blast. So this kind of complications take place in this condition is called as volvulus. Okay, so I just want to show you the blood vessels in this. So I will try to show you the blood vessels here. Okay, now okay, you can see the blood vessels now. Okay, so you can see these are the omentum, these are the mesentery membrane. Okay, so when we focus the light, what happens, this in blood vessels are clearly visible in it. Okay, these blood vessels are clearly visible. You can see we are separating the mesentery membrane, and then only we can ligate the blood vessels, and then only we can excise this intestine. Okay, this is how the mesentery membrane is present, that is holding the blood vessels in it. Okay, you see how fragile the mesentery membrane is. Okay, so okay, so remaining, I have a full part of the recordings, I will show you later. Okay, just focus, know the difference between the peritoneum, parietal peritoneum, visceral peritoneum, and the mesentery, that is holding the fat and the blood vessels, and also the intestine. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, now what you see here is the peritoneal sac that is holding the intestinal structures. Okay, so this is abdominal pelvic cavity, where you can see this is a vertebral body, this is a peritoneal sac. Okay, so in this peritoneal sac, this is the parietal peritoneum, and this is a visceral peritoneum that is covering the intestine. Okay, and this is the mesentery that is holding the intestine. Okay, so it is also covering the liver. Okay, so this is that's something you have to understand. Okay, coming to the blood supply, as I told you, we divide the intestine into foregut, midgut, and hindgut. The foregut is supplied by the celiac artery. In the circulatory system, I have explained the celiac artery. Okay, I am not going to open it again because there is no time. So okay, next in the then the midgut is supplied by the in superior mesenteric, and the hindgut is supplied by the inferior mesenteric artery. All the blood comes out and drains as a hepatic portal vein. I will teach that separately in the hepatobiliary system. Okay, so just remember the portal vein that is bringing the venous blood and delivering it to the liver. Okay, I will show you the portal vein and explain, you will have a better understanding. Okay, so you see these are the hepatic arteries. So the aorta, that is superior celiac artery, superior mesenteric artery, and inferior mesenteric artery. Celiac artery supplying the foregut up to second part of duodenum. Then superior mesenteric is supplying the midgut, okay, small intestine, and medial 2/3 of transverse colon, and the inferior mesenteric is supplying the lateral 1/3 of transverse colon, and descending colon, sigmoid colon, and the anus. So all this blood, arterial blood, goes to the liver by the portal vein. Okay, this portal vein finally enters the liver. Then the liver processes all the absorbed food and then sends the venous blood to the hepatic veins to the inferior vena cava. So this is the blood vessel network you have to understand here. This is the blood vessel network you need to understand in this place. Okay, so coming to this nervous system, as I told you, it is supplied by the myenteric and the mesenteric plexus. So they are nothing but the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nerves. They are nothing but the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nerves. Okay, so now you can see the nerve cells that is supplying this intestine. Okay, these are the nerve cells. Now we have to start from the mouth. Okay,